Hi. When I was a Christian, I had a few conversations about religion with a man who didn't believe as I did. At some point in the course of the talks, I said to him, "You're a heathen." The man responded by saying, "I've been called worse." The memory of that conversation popped into my head a month or so ago, and I felt horrible about it. At the time I said it, it didn't occur to me how off putting my accusation was. The man may not have cared a lot about being called a heathen. I certainly no longer care about it. But that's not the point. When the memory hit me, I realized just how polarizing my behavior had been. I was separating myself from this man and obviously thought I was better than he was because I believed in a particular book and religion to the exclusion of all others. We all have the right to our own beliefs, of course, but who did I think I was to try to put a label on this man? He'd never tried to put one on me. And I should say that the man in question is and was one of the best people I know. His entire life's work has been to help those who are less fortunate than he is. And he always treats everyone with respect. I will say also that despite having grown up in the church, where Matthew 18:15 through 16 was supposed to be followed when people have disagreements, I never saw this put into practice until this man did it. And it actually worked beautifully. Because when you get honest and decent people together to discuss issues, and you have a leader who has integrity, as this man did and does, most problems can be worked out amicably. I have the deepest respect for this man, yet as a judgmental Christian, which all Christians must be, I set myself above him. I am not even worthy to untie his shoelaces when it comes to doing good works, which is what the Bible says will judge us. But because I believed something I thought was all fired important, I elevated myself above him almost to the point of seeing him as a lower species. This is what religion does. It separates us from others. Some Christians will probably say, well, that's just you. I'm not like that. Well, if so, I think they're either lying or they haven't admitted this truth to themselves. Or they're not doing the Christian thing right. Think about it. They think they're worthy of heaven while you and I deserve death, or worse. They think the creator of the universe is pleased with them because they are or they do things that you and I aren't and don't do. Some of them think that one day they will rejoice while we burn and they walk on our ashes. So yes, they think they're better than we are, just as I thought I was better than my friend. Even Jesus declared that he came to separate us and make us enemies of one another. Matthew 10:34 through 36. Think not that I'm come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. Thanks, Jesus. That was a great plan of the gods of the Bible, huh? And it worked. It worked beautifully. But what kind of God makes a plan like this to separate people and cause chaos in the world? Now, I know he doesn't really want the chaos, right? That's just a byproduct because evil people won't believe and they just want to sin. And poor Yahweh, he just couldn't come up with a way to save us without creating division among us and even enemies in our own families. Thankfully, I worked my way out of this judgmental attitude and discrimination against others. It came with working my way out of Christianity. I wrote an article about my new way of thinking, but never put it in a video. So I'm going to do that right now. The article is called Basement Epiphany, and here goes. A few years ago, my son Seth had a going-away party for himself with some of his friends. In a couple of weeks, he was headed to Wuhan, China, to teach at the university that employed his cousin Sheila. I went down to the basement occasionally to get some cider and a snack, especially the yummy ham and cheese cream rolls a guy named Chris had brought. I was watching Hot Pursuit in my room when Seth came in and said his friends wanted me to join him for a game of Cards Against Humanity. Several men and women, mostly heterosexuals, but at least two gays, in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, filled the basement, and everybody seemed to be having a good time. I had been drinking and had also eaten my nightly gummy medicine, which began to kick in. So after a time, I began to wax philosophical. I looked around at the partying group with a critical eye. I thought about how, over the course of the evening, I had heard cursing and inappropriate conversation, and I'd also, horror of horrors, participated in alcohol consumption and fellowshipped homosexuals. I wondered how I might be viewed by my former Christian peers, being that I was 63 years old, I'm 70 now, and participating in sins with these younger people rather than being a good example to them. And I thought to myself, what have we done tonight? We have shared food and drink. We have laughed hard. Our hearts are light, and not a single hateful word has been spoken. We harmed no one, and we blessed one another with acceptance, tolerance, and love. Even I, an old grandma, was granted the same reception and approval as everybody else. At that point, my heart was filled with love for every person in that basement. I felt it deep down in my chest cavity, rippling through my inner being. I decided everybody in my presence was beautiful and perfect. Their physical bodies were perfect. Their behavior was perfect. Their very being was perfect. I felt amazing empathy toward them all. I also recalled a time when I would have set myself apart from these people I was now enjoying and would have considered myself to be better and closer to God. But in that moment, I recognized them as humans just trying to make it through life and grabbing all the joy and sharing all the friendship they could. They were there to say to my son, "We love you and we will miss you." They were good people. And on a Saturday night, at a basement party designed to drink up Seth's special beers and wish him well in his new life in China, I was filled with more love and compassion for my fellow man than I ever experienced on a Sunday morning in a church service. If that's not what any God worth his salt wants, then that God is not a God for me. And whether we join in particular activities with others is not the issue. To each his own. What is important is that we come to the knowledge of the truth, which is we are one. That's the end of the article, and I edited it a bit. For those who condemn anyone who participates in the drinking of alcohol or the use of medicinal herbs, I have a couple of biblical passages for you. Psalm 104, 14 and 15. He causes the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of man, that he may bring forth food out of the earth, and wine that makes glad the heart of man, and oil to make his face shine, and bread which strengthens man's heart. Bread, herbs, and wine are all listed together as items Yahweh gave to humans to strengthen them and make them happy. Proverbs 31, 6 and 7. Give strong drink to him that is ready to perish, and wine to those that be of heavy hearts. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his misery no more. People are always saying when you give money to a homeless person, he was just spending it on alcohol. Well, good on him, according to the Bible. That's what he should do. Let him drink and forget his poverty and remember his misery no more. Anything can be taken to excess, of course. My mother always said you can make a sin out of anything. But I don't think people who eat foods they know aren't good for them have a right to judge some poor man who needs to forget his miseries for a while. By the way, Christians, your God has given you a prescription here for when you're sad. Go out and have a drink or two. Ecclesiastes 9:7 says, "Go thy way, eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for God hath already accepted thy works. Many years ago, I learned a poem, possibly written by James Truslow Adams, that has stuck with me. It goes like this. There's so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it hardly becomes any one of us to talk about the rest of us. The last two lines sometimes read that it ill behooves any one of us to find fault with the rest of us. Of course, that doesn't mean that we can't point out horrible behavior or try to help an alcoholic improve his or her life. We can, we should, but we can't judge the character or worthiness of a person based on his personal beliefs that harm no one. Now, when I say harm, I don't mean, something that just irritates us, like, our neighbor's junk car sitting in his yard. And I for sure don't mean harm like, I don't want you to, or like you say a 4-letter word I don't like, or you wear a bathing suit on the beach and that bothers me. But when your beliefs put down others, judge the hearts of others, and hurt others physically or emotionally in ways that cause them difficulty in finding happiness, then yes, we should speak out to you and we should try to remedy the situation. Or even if the lies contained in religious books and being propagated aren't hurting anybody. But we know the truth, a truth that brings peace and comfort rather than fear and feelings of unworthiness and, yes, division. Then we should speak up if we can and do so without endangering ourselves. We do good by speaking up. But when we see love, compassion, and generosity flowing from another person, as I saw emanating from Seth's friends and this so-called heathen I mentioned, we need to recognize and honor that no matter what religious beliefs or lack thereof the person might adhere to, most of us are trying to do the best we can in this life. And after all, even the Bible says that anyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Now, I don't personally know anybody who doesn't love. And love, my friends, behaves the way I behaved that Saturday night in our basement. It sees the loved one as beautiful and perfect. Any of us who have children and grandchildren know this to be true. If there is a God who loves us, that is how that God views us. Go your way, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart. Any God worth anything has already accepted you and your works. And not that my opinion matters, but I am happy to say that whoever you are, as long as you are trying to live your life in peace and not hurt others, I accept you too and see you as beautiful and perfect. Thanks to my patrons. Thanks to everybody who watches. Thanks to my commenters, and thanks to my subscribers. Bye.